So I went in and pulled the factory service manual up for this car, and I was in the hopes that it would possibly give me some direction about how to disassemble this box here, but it didn't. So I'm just kind of going to be on my own with this. So I have to figure it out. So I'm going to take a bunch of pictures and all that, because the kit that I came with, it doesn't tell you how to take it apart, it just tells you how to put it back together. So anyway, as I said, I'm going to take a bunch of pictures and all that, and remember, if I need to, mark where these hoses, they all go. These are actuators. These are vacuum actuators. We'll test all those, but I've already been into this with a Chrysler, and these things are double acting actuators. Means they have a vacuum line on either side of them. So obviously when the vacuum is applied to this side of the can, it pulls this way, and then when it's applied to this side, it pulls this way, or pushes, whatever you want to call it. But that's the way it works. And you got about 3 of those. One here also, and then there's one that's incidentally painted black, that's down here on the bottom. And then of course you have the vacuum harness that comes around. This is the part that plugs into the back of the controller on the dashboard, and then the other end of it over here has a port through the firewall, and these go to the heater valve and the manifold vacuum source respectively. And then there's a cable on here. So I'll show you what this is. This little unit right here, this is what's called the evaporator temperature switch. And the way this works is, if it works, is that it has a line here that comes to it, and it comes down here and it goes into the side of the evaporator case, and it keeps tabs on the temperature of the evaporator. So when it gets down to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, then this thing backs off the it's supposed to cycle. I think what it does is it does a couple things actually. It has a switch here. This is the electrical switch, obviously, as I said, and then it cuts the power to the compressor clutch, and then I think at the same time it also starts to regulate. It helps regulate the temperature of the air. So I'm not 100%. I've read through this some, but I'm not 100% how that works. But that's what it does, assuming it works. So we'll have to test that. Somebody said you can test them. You put them in a water bath and make sure that it goes open circuit at about 40 degrees or below. So we'll certainly do that. And this thing is in. Also, this is your heater blower motor resistor pack right there. We'll have to test that also. And you got a heater core in here. I've heard it sloshing around, so it's not leaked all its antifreeze out, but we're probably going to replace that, because this thing has to come all the way out. It's not a later one, not like the later ones, like a 73 or so, where actually you can get the heater core out of it with it in the car. This has to all come out. So it's stupid to put this all back together without replacing the heater core, because who knows what kind of shape it's actually in. And I think these are actually, there are 2 different units here actually, I believe, is that actually, hopefully, I know they bolt together here, and I think this part, once this cable's out of the way, and anything else that needs to come out of the way is moved away from interfering with it. I believe that this thing can divide. You can divide this way, and this will help us without having to wrestle this big huge box around. Now, the usual rules about heater boxes on these Mopars apply. The main one is that this is fiberglass, some sort of fiberglass resin, I guess, molded fiberglass, and it does not take kindly to any kind of stress on it. So where you got these brackets and things that are riveted on, and you got the door, and you got this, and you got these clips that hold the thing together. You have to pry these clips apart, and it comes apart. But you got to be careful of that. Don't, especially putting it back together. Don't, try your very best to be in control of whatever kind of tool you may be using, or whatever, and don't put too much stress on this thing. And obviously, also, this thing has tripped up some people. This hanger, this hangs the end of the box right there, and it goes through the bottom of this box down there. That's to the end of it right there. But this is the evaporator. It's got a screen in there, a little mark on it, number 71. So anyway, this is a ground. This goes over to the, normally it's attached to the cowl, side cowl. And I think something is, this thing looks rough because it's got a bunch of mouse pee on it, but I think something's missing here because this doesn't look quite right. It looks like I think would be pushed in obviously whenever it's installed, but pretty sure there's supposed to be a seal in there, which is no longer there. So anyway, I'm going to take a bunch of pictures and I'm going to get this vacuum harness labeled and out of the way and get this cable off and see about going ahead and splitting this thing here. So I'm sorry I can't really be more helpful about it because I've never done one of these. The only ones I've ever done before this were just the straight heaters. So we'll see how this goes. All right. And a bit of trivia for you. I was looking at the build sheet on this car, and it's got, there were 2 copies, and neither copy were entirely a whole copy, but one of them, somebody had taken, on the assembly line, had taken a red, orangish red, either a grease pencil or something, and had circled a few different things on the build sheet that made me think that they were calling attention to the fact that it was going to have air conditioning, because obviously first thing they did is there's a code on the build sheet for air conditioning, which is H51, and so they circled that with a grease pencil or a marker, and then they circled the glass code, which is, I think on this car is G11, which means it has tinted glass all the way around. Sometimes they only got tinted windshields. And then they had actually, for good measure, had written up above on the build sheet, they had written AC on it with big letters. So they were certainly, whoever was responsible for that was definitely calling attention to down the line, that when I guess they had the build sheet taped on the car wherever it was stuck at here, that the fact that it was going to get, well, one thing that's important to remember is that people talk about installing air conditioning on cars that never had it. So the thing on these cars, the firewall is different between the 2 cars. The cutouts are different. I mean, you got for the AC evaporator lines, but it's different between the cars about where the fan and all that mounts up, that stuff. So the whole stamping's different. Not saying you can't modify it, but so when they built the car, they had to definitely, when it came down to put the car together, the assembly, and they welded this thing in, they had to make sure that they welded an air conditioning cowl in it, or whatever, firewall. It's kind of interesting, huh? Okay, as hoped, this unit just divided itself apart once I removed that bolt there, which was this one. And the other half is right there, so that makes it super convenient to take each of these things apart sort of as sub-assemblies. That's the part that's got the heater core in it, and this is the part over here that, don't mind my thing there, but this is the part that's got the AC evaporator right in there. So got some filth here. I'm thinking that the mice didn't think of rats or chipmunks, whatever it was, that tore all this stuff up. I'm thinking that they didn't really care much for the stamps, because you can see where, I guess this was Mrs. Spiegel had done a lot of these top value stamps. And I don't know where she turned them in at. There was a place over there, I think, in the 7 Points Shopping Center that took these. So she was, at the time that they parked this car, maybe she quit driving. She passed away in '89. But maybe at the time that she stopped using this car, she had amassed quite a collection of top page stamps. I don't know, but also, besides tearing up all the stamp books, the rodents also tore up a phone book because I saw pieces of it in there with people's names and phone numbers and addresses. Even though we don't really have phone books anymore, I immediately recognize that as indeed a phone book. So, okay, I'm going to proceed with this section of this. So I've got to take these actuators off of here, and probably going to need to, looks like they're just clipped on at the ends with these very good clips that Chrysler used back then. This is before they went to plastic on everything. So may need to mark these because, well, no, probably not, because I'm going to take some pictures just to make sure I have them put back in. You know, I don't try to reverse them or something, but it should be fairly obvious that one of these is black and one is silver, and the other one over there is not even near like those. It's a lot shorter. So, and we'll test all these with a vacuum pump, but normally they don't fail when they're not in a real harsh environment. See, we got some droppings there. So I hope I have this piece of insulation, because it's out every piece of everything that is some sort of fabric or insulation or anything like that that's got any possibility of absorbing urine or stench or smells or anything is coming out of here and being discarded. So if I don't have it, then I'll have to find out how to get it or make it. So anyway, I'm going to proceed with this disassembly of this and bring it back. So I removed this little seal assembly that goes around these evaporator tubes, and there's an upper part there and then the bottom part, which also has a piece of metal that sits over it. That's against, the rubber goes against here. And this actually appeared to be bent when it was put on, because I didn't bend it, it came right off, but it was bent nonetheless. So next up, I'm going to remove this bracket and see about what to do with this, because this unbolts from this plate here, but this is one continuous tube, and I've got to look and see if that tube will come out of there or not. If it's or not, then we'll have to be very careful to not damage that. Also notice there's a seal back here, or what's left on, to make this fan housing. Okay, so I have peeled off the top plate of this evaporator housing, and this is very instructional because this shows you where some foam and seals and insulation and stuff like that is supposed to go in here. So let's take a look at, first what I did was I just went around the perimeter of this and took all the screws out. There's one long screw that goes in here. It's the only long screw there is, but it goes in this position. And so I got all those out, and be sure you get all of them, because I missed at least two of them. I had to go back and take them out. I thought I had them, but I didn't. And then what I started doing was I took my putty knife and carefully started working my way around. This thing has got, this looks like butyl sealer. It looks like the same stuff that's under the windshield. It's just some, a soft rubber, and it should be in the kit. He says he supplies that, so I hope he does. So I finally got all that ready to come off, and I carefully moved this thing out of the way, this switch. I still don't know if this is actually going to come out. I've got to take my light and investigate in there and see what that looks like. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if the evaporator is going to come out. But what we have going on here is a few things. There's insulation across the bottom right here and around all the way over here. And there's insulation on that lid. There's a big piece here that's glued on. There's another piece here that's glued on. And a piece here. And then right over, the part that's over this evaporator has got this piece of foam on it. Of course, there again, you can see that the whole thing was sealed on. So the evaporator itself, I don't know how it comes out yet. Maybe just be pull it out hopefully now, but It's got a couple things in here that we need to take note of. Some of Chrysler's very good assembly, but there's a couple pieces of screen, and they are just, looks like again, they're just in with this rubber sealant. Oh yeah, don't forget there's a piece of insulation here too. So I'm going to take pictures of all that. This screen should be able to just cut the butyl, and take that out, take that right out. Because we really need to get this thing totally disassembled in order to get all this out and cleaned up. So I'm going to look in here, see. Yeah, I see a coil of something down in there. So anyway, I'm going to carefully start to, I may have to go back in and refer to the instructions again on this, but anyway, I'm going to get everything ready to come out, and then we'll see where we're at. All right, just take your time with this step. Okay, more progress. I got this screen out, and this putty job on here was another distinctly so-so job that they did. In fact, I'm not sure what the purpose is of the piece of screen here at the bottom, is it didn't even go all the way across. It's like they just had too short of a piece. Yeah, don't worry about it. And this didn't go all the way up. This didn't go all the way up. Whatever, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I see now, looks like this is what holds the evaporator in. It's got two, looks like 3/8 nuts there. So I'm going to remove those and kind of just gently start trying to move some things and see what we got at that point. Guys, run into a situation. So this device here, this sensor, it is actually, if you can kind of see in there, it's inserted into this, the fins of this evaporator. It goes all the way through to probably over here. And the instructions from the service manual, the factory service manual from Chrysler, says to carefully withdraw this thing. Well, there is no carefully withdrawing. It's not coming out, because the way it was made is I guess they poked holes all the way through where it's supposed to go, and then the fangs of the hole where it was punched out are faced this way. So when you try to pull the tube out, it's just digging into it. It's like, it's like Chinese finger trap. So that's not happening. That ain't gonna happen. So I'm not gonna ruin this thing. So we're gonna go to plan B here, I'm afraid. I'll show you what that is. There's a condenser out with its attached sensor. So a dirty mess, but it's out. Hopefully we didn't damage that thing. But how I did this was not the way I wanted to, but I just cut myself a slot here to run that thing up to the nearest spot and opened it up and just drew it out of there. And I'm going to dress that and maybe widen it a little bit. And then when we put this back together, I'll just cover it with a piece of that. I'm going to try to find some of that paper tape that Chrysler used on everything and cover it with that, and nobody will be the wiser. But that wasn't coming out. You can't take that out. That's ridiculous to even say that. But there's a bunch of gunk in there that's all got to be cleaned up. So that's why when you have a car that's this old and it's been sitting around, there's no telling what's in the climate control system. So try not to go breathing that crap. Put that, where's the other one at? Well, I didn't look in the floor yet. That's probably where it's at, and I got to get those up. So, all right, let me do that, and I'm going to continue my disassembly. Okay, I think I'm going to call it a day on this one, and I'm going to probably call it a video too. We've got this air conditioning side of this totally disassembled. It's just got to be cleaned up. It has a little bit of rust damage here. But this is all just a metal assembly. There's no more taking it apart. So it has a couple doors in here that are going to have to remain in there. Which they are, one of them that in there, and then one is right here. So anyway, that's actually I know what that one is. That's a defroster and heater door. Has that rod running down to the actuator. When this is open like it is now, it blocks off most of the heat to the floor and sends it. There's a duct that bolts here, and it makes a 90-degree turn and goes up, and that goes to one side of the. Might go to. I think it goes to actually both of the defrosters tubes, and then when it closes, like so, you just get heat or somewhere else. So. Anyways, but this is basically just a metal assembly now, so I'm just going to clean this up and wash it out and do what has to be done with it, and we'll get that done. I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these in separate stages. Meaning I'm going to get this one fixed up and I'll put back together, and then we'll do the heater side of it, because I don't want to have too much apart in here. So I'm going to have to order some parts. I'm going to order a heater core, and I'm going to order a fin tool for that evaporator over there. Boy, sometimes what's the name is right. Sometimes words are hard. For that evaporator over there, straighten the fins out on it. And that's about it, really. I think I'm not going to have to buy too much more stuff. I hate to do it. I'm going to have to replicate this. I'm going to order a grease pencil, and replicate that, because I've got to paint all this. This thing's in too rough a condition to try to, if you try to tape that off, it's going to be a big square there, and but anyway, so we get at this, and had the time change now. I know some people hate daylight savings time, but I love it, man, because it's late in the day. I can stay out here with it being light. I don't have to close the doors up to see what I'm doing. I'm just all for it. Okay, well, that's how you take this thing apart, at least the AC side of it. So I think in the next video we will, I don't know if I'm going to put these together as two videos in one or not. We may. But anyway, probably will. So I think probably in the next part of this video, we'll get this thing cleaned up and repainted, and we'll put it back together and move on. Cleaning table, and I've got this all ready to paint up and spruce up, and I'm not going to go crazy on this thing because most of it's hidden under the dashboard. The one part you'll really see is this right here. So I've gave the whole thing a good sand out, good cleaning, and I think it's going to look good. But this is an unwieldy SOB, that's for sure, because it's a weird shape and it doesn't sit very levelly, and it's just hard to work with, but that's all right. I did clean up my slot and enlarge that a little bit for my capillary tube, and this is education, I'll give you that on it, because it definitely, you learn where everything is and where all the little bits of sealant have to go, little butyl sealant, which they supply it, but sorry, I was looking at my screen there, it looked like it went out, but they supply some, but I ordered some extra also. So I'm not going to go crazy with this thing, as I said. I'm just going to make it functional and clean, and that's the main thing here. But like these things here have little isolators, real thin isolators that go around them. I didn't know that until I started scraping on it. So, and anyway, you're right. It's going to continue. I got to tape up a couple of things I see, and I am going to replicate that mark there. I took a picture of that. But you couldn't, I couldn't save it because the whole thing's just too dirty and too crusty. So, but we'll make it look like it did. Okay, I caught a break from the rain for a little bit, hopefully, and I can narrate some of this. I was having to do some of that silently because this metal roof is just, anything hits it like rain and just drowns me out. But what I'm doing now is I've got these little voids sealed up through here. I think I've got all of them. I took a lot of pictures, but I'll have to go back and double check. And one thing you'll note is that he supplies white rope caulk for that. The original stuff was black, but it's no big deal. So I've got all that done, I believe. I've also got some more butyl coming in the mail. So if I want to use black or I want to add to it, then I can do so. In fact, matter of fact, I think I've got a spot possibly right there, but I don't know, maybe not. But what I'm doing now is they supply with the insulation that goes in this. This is where the evaporator sits in here. And I took pictures of all that, but the insulation is not exactly the same as it was in there. I mean, it works just fine, but it's a little bit different. The cut is maybe just a little bit different. So I'm having to trial fit this. So do not glue anything before you trial fit all these pieces. And I had to figure out where they go. So really, the order of operations, you're going to have 3 pieces that glue in this evaporator case. You've got one. And by the way, the flat side here goes out, the smooth side goes out. But you've got one that glues in here, like so. And then you're going to have a big piece that glues in here on the back. You know it's that one because it's got the cutout for the drain tube for the tray that the evaporator goes in. And then you have the side one over here, which I'm going to have to cut once it's in because I have my special slot for the capillary tube there that I didn't want to try to take out. So I've actually put these in. I've named them off really to the opposite. You need to put this one in first, and you glue this one in because it kind of overrides that one. And then you do the third one. And then over here, that's got all those. I had to remember where this one goes. This one goes on this is the bottom of the evaporator tray. And you have a big piece here that conforms to that cutout. It just glues right on there like that. And you know you got it in the right spot because if you're looking at it from, I'm telling you, 3 or 4 weeks ago we had ice out there, and now it's doing this. You can see how this kind of works here, but it's kind of this thing is it's a tight fit, but you want to have it so that it sticks out here at the front, so that lets you know that you got it on the right way. This is not easy. It's fun, but it's not easy. And then you have 2 pieces I had to sit here and study on it, like my grandparents used to say, about where they went. This is the top of the evaporator case. This is the cover to it, which I actually just cleaned up. It's galvanized, so I preserve that look. Cleaned up quite nicely, as a matter of fact. So you have 2 pieces of black insulation that go on this. And again, it's smooth side out. There's one side that's a little rough. This is the smooth side. This part here goes like, it fits here, and then it folds over like that. So that's how that's going to work. And then I was like, where in the world does that piece go? Because I didn't pay really enough attention, I guess, when I was doing this, but I never do. But this piece goes here, and then it folds over like that. That's where it goes. So, kind of interesting, but that's the way it works. That's the way it goes. So, I'm going to get busy gluing all this together. And then that's about all I can do for tonight, I reckon, because I've got to get a fin comb to comb out the fins on my evaporators. It got bent up a little bit. So, I got to go track one of those down. I think the Apple's got it. And then we can commence with the continuation of the putting this thing together. Honk, honk, honk. Here's another situation where the instructions diverge from what actually was done from the factory on this AC box. Now, I don't expect the person to be an expert, but he says, apply 2 nickel-sized balls of black butyl caulk to the middle sides of the face of the evaporator, and then press the screen edges into the caulk. See photos. Place a small screen over the bottom lip of the evaporator tray and hold in place 2 quarter-size balls of black butyl pressed over the general area of the evaporator to tray studs. Okay, well this is what, let's look at these pictures. Yeah, so right here's what he says do. 2 nickel-sized blobs. This is upside down, but either way. But what was in my car was not, clearly not, nickel-sized blobs. This thing had a big, huge thing of it all the way up one side and all the way up this side. That is much more than nickel size. So if you want to be correct about it, you see they put one, I'm not sure what they did here. It looks like they put one on the back of it on this side and then clearly one over the top of it. And this one's kind of the same way, I guess, 2 different strips of it. And then I would say that the bottom side, the bottom part there, is about quarter size maybe, so that's about accurate. But these, they took a bunch of it, and as Phil would say, they smooshed it in there. So he's not, that's not the way it was done on this one. Maybe some of them. So if you want to be correct about this, you put a big glob of it all the way up it. And he's wanting to use this white, thin, white, where is it in here? This stuff. To seal the case halves. Not the case halves, this cover over it. That goes on, that big where is that thing at? There it is. That big thing there. It goes down over, gets screwed on now. That's what he says to use on it. That's not what this one had on it. This one had black butyl again all the way up at thick stuff. So I'm not knocking the person. He does a good kit, but it's not exactly accurate, some of the details. So anyway, I've got to go ahead and just, I got this thing bolted in, got the tray in, and hopefully got my capillary safely down its access slot, which I'll take that back. Oh, I got to do that. I got to see if I can find some paper tape. And when I talk about paper tape, what I mean is, I bet I threw it all away, darn me. But in different spots on these cars, Mopar uses, like on the door panel, right here it is. Mopar uses this stuff. And so it's kind of like a papery type stuff. They sealed this thing in, the weather shield in with it. I don't know if I've been able to find any of that. I found some stuff that looks like this. Which is self-adhering, but this is wire wrap tape. That's something different. That's not it. Look okay, I guess, but that's not it. So anyway, alrighty. So all right, we'll get on with this and get this thing put together. I hope my butyl comes in. I ordered some black stuff. Hope it comes in tomorrow. Look what came in today. Awesome. This is my butyl strip that I ordered. So that's great because I needed that. That was restricting me from moving forward with this. So I can now not only can I put this screen back on the way it's supposed to be with the right material, but I was looking at this. There's a big old gap right here in this, and that needs to be sealed up anyway. I don't know if it even was from the factory, but that, if it's not, then that's the way the air can go around the evaporator. So, because it blows this way, and then you have a duct here that goes to the little, across the bottom of the dashboard. So that's awesome. And then I'll use it to carefully seal around this, which I'll have to take pieces of it and just make them, stretch them out to make them a little bit smaller because it's a little bit too thick for that the way it is. But no problem. We'll do that. Glad to see that. This one's supposed to be here till tomorrow. Okay, so I've taken my stuff here and I've replicated the way the factory did it, I improved on it a little bit better. I did seal some cracks up there that I found. And then this piece that was not actually as long as it should have been for whatever reason, I put that back in the way they had it in. So I guess this was a 1969 version of a AC filter, the climate control filter. So anyway, that's it. So I went ahead and used this stuff here again to go around and seal the top of this exactly the way that it was originally, to the best of my knowledge, best of my ability, I guess you'd say. And you may notice something interesting here. You started out here on this side of it. Look how wide it is. I had to flatten this all out with a socket to make sure it's not too thick, because that stuff is thick as can be. I don't know what, ½ inch, somewhere in there. So it's thick. And if I had to do this over again, I would use stuff that's that type of stuff, but a little bit thinner if they make it. But that kind of makes me want to share with you that, you know, when you put a car back together and you're restoring a car, that's part of it. You have to learn how to do a lot of things. You don't automatically know how to do anything. I don't, except stuff I learned a long time ago, like mechanical type stuff. But, you know, this is the first one of these I've ever worked on, and I've had to perfect some techniques, and I'm still perfecting some techniques. As a matter of fact, that's a good example, because I started out with this and there was a little too much of it on here on this side, and then I started realizing that I needed to go thinner, so I did, and as it progresses around, I got better and better and better at it until now that's pretty close to what the final product needs to look like. And you might say, well, that's sure is kind of crooked, it's not very straight. Well, that's the thing you see people restore cars, is they try to be perfectionist about it. I mean, you need to in some cases, like paint and body work, of course, fit and finish, but stuff like this, if you're restoring, let's examine the word restore. It means put it back exactly the way it was originally. So you have a choice to make. You're either going to restore it back the way they did it, which was, this is the way they did it, not very straight because they were in a hurry, but it worked, it sealed. Or you can be perfect about it. And you see a lot of cars that people are perfect about. They do everything just, the paint's better, the fit and finish is better than it ever was, the emblems are on straight when they weren't originally, just everything's just over restored. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, but I'm trying to be authentic about it. So, for instance, the sticker over here, you've probably seen different air cleaners that I've put these stickers back on, and you notice not one of them is on there straight. That's not because I can't see good enough to put them on correctly, but that is on correctly. That's the way that it was on originally, because I took pictures. They never ever put those things on straight unless it was by accident. So that's replicating the way it was originally. All these clamps, I actually researched to see what kind of fuel line clamps this car would have used. And those were the kind it used, and those are the kind of radiator clamps it used. That's not original, but I explained earlier in this process why I used that type of clamp on that hose. So, you know, that's the way it goes. You can either do it right or do it right and overdo it, or there's people that restore stuff and so this car's restored and you go looking at the engine and they've got the wrong clamps, they've got the wrong hoses, they've got the wrong carburetor, they got the wrong plug wires, all this stuff's wrong. You know, you can tell it was just slapped together. A big sin in the Mopar community is somebody that's restored a car and they paint this firewall black. They're never black on a Mopar unless the car was black. So if you ever see that, you know, this is somebody who's been working on Chevys or something, that's been touching this thing. So, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and put this cover on now and progress with this and go along with it. So it's quite a process. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I have this cover back on, and it went on fairly easily. It was a little bit of a struggle because, you know, the stuff that was in there had set over 50-something years. And so, you know, I had to work with it to get it back on. But, you know, I'm looking at it, and I'm just not happy with the way this seal looks, because I think I may have I don't know that I under sealed it, but it looks like I did. As a matter of fact, I can see a little gap right there, a light right there. So I misjudged that. So I have to fix that. I can't let that go. That's not going to work. It's going to leak air. So what I'm going to do is I've made the decision that I'm just going to go ahead and add to this around the perimeter of this with sealing just to make it 100%. And that's just what you have to do sometimes. Just you can try what the factory did, which I did, and I'm just not pleased with how they did it. I guess in the end, it just because this box is kind of cheaply assembled. It's just sheet metal, and it's got this sheet metal cover, and you just can't bear down on these screws these little 1/4-inch screws. You just can't bear down on them very far. They'll strip. I had to fix one already that was stripped from the factory, and so it just is what it is. So that's what you run into when you work on this stuff. Sometimes you can get away with just making it just like it was, or sometimes you have to improve it. This is what I'm talking about. This insulation is not the best. See, it's already kind of separating right there. It's glued just fine, man. But it's not very good insulation. It's cheap. Okay, so that is completely sealed up to my satisfaction. I still have the slot here I have to seal, but I think I'm going to do that with tape. I'm trying to locate an appropriate replica of this kind of paper tape, whatever this was that I used. I showed you earlier, I think I did. Anyway, we'll try to use that. That looks a little bit more appropriate. I have some different kinds of tape, but I don't think I have one that's going to look right on there for that. I'm not going to use duct tape, not going to use Gorilla tape. It's not what they used. So I'll go looking for that and we'll seal that, but I think the rest of it's good to go now. And so the next step is we have to seal up these evaporator tube opening for that. Of course, I have a little flat bead sealer there for that part of it, but what we have to do now is there's a plate goes over this. Get out of here. There's a plate goes over this, and this is it. And so what happens is you have a seal, and then you have this little guy here. Notice they're two different size holes because they're two different size tubes. But this bottom, the lower of the two plates goes on first, right over the seal. The seal goes against the box. And then you have this one, which goes over the top of it roughly like that. And this thing's not exactly clean, but I did clean it up, but it's got some marks on it I wanted to preserve. And in this case, it has a Q on it and a little stripe over here, so we don't want to get rid of that. So anyway, that's that. And I went into my box of tricks, my bag of tricks down here as it is, and found the new seal. There it is. So we're just going to come back over here. One thing I had to do also is these, that smaller of the two evaporator lines was pretty close to that metal edge, so I just glued on a piece of foam. Hopefully that will help it keep from puncturing it, wearing a hole in it. So we're just going to kind of, it's not real easy with one hand here, but maneuver this into place. I do a lot of maneuvering things into place. Come on. Change camera hands there. You ever wonder if you suffer from camera hands? Okay, so what has to happen now is, like I said, not so sure this is going to stay on here, but we'll attempt it at least. And why does that not look like that's the way it was before? Well, that'll work though. I have to push that sealer back a little bit. That's what I'm saying, man, is you learn as you go on some of this stuff. And so then we'll fit this one in, hopefully. I have to line them up again before I put the screws in, but you kind of get the idea here. One covers the other one, you line the screws up and line it all up, and then everybody's happy. So, of course, I bag up a lot of stuff here and make notes. So this is called Evap tube seal, and there's the 2 screws in the bottom that go in there. So I'm going to put that on now and closely examine this to see if I need to reposition my sealer strip. So okay, let me do it right now. Right now. There you go. Man, that thing wasn't as easy as you would think it would be, but it did go on there flat. It's sealed pretty good, I think. But yeah, I'm telling you again, this is not a very high quality heater and air conditioning box assembly. Not at all. Okay, so oh shoot. I've got a seal. There's supposed to be a seal that goes on here, but I'm not sure I want to deal with that right yet. So I think what I'm going to do is I've got to do some work on the back of this thing. So I'm going to flip it around and flip it over and do that stuff now. This is the firewall side of the heater box. This is the side that sits up against the cowl of the car, the firewall. So we've got a couple things we need to install here now. The first one is going to be, there's a little seal that goes around this evaporator, the tray drip tube, which is copper, by the way. I cleaned it up. So he says to glue it, but I think this thing will stay on here just fine otherwise. I don't think it's going anywhere. The factory didn't glue it. So anyway, just slip it on like that. If you're more comfortable gluing it, you can do that. And then you have these 4 studs that go through the firewall that mount the thing up. And they have little styrofoam foam seals, not styrofoam, just foam. You just simply push them on. I was thinking that there was a big seal missing off of this because there's a big gap around this thing, so I'm curious to see if there is. This is the drain, not drain, excuse me. This is it's getting late in the day. This is the fresh air intake. There's a little elbow that goes up when the motor's in position. It's got a little rubber elbow tube that goes up to get fresh air to the motor. So that's where that goes if you're curious. So I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and tackle that plate seal right there because it's one of those things I better do it now or I may forget it. So I don't want to forget it, so I guess I'll go ahead and do it. Here that is. And boy, she's really going to have to stretch over that. That's going to require some lube. So fortunately, I have what I think will work fine. Put that back down on my nice clean workbench. Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Nope. There it is. This is a model of the cheapest 99-cent detergent I could find. So I'm going to get over here where it won't make a big deal. Hey, wait a minute. See just what I need right here. Stomach's rumbling. I have to go in and eat supper pretty soon. This is the same trick you use on the wiper seals. So work one-handed. Oh, get in close. Get in real close. Oh yeah. There you go. That's the way you got to do it. Oh yeah. Yeah, fit it on there. That's all right. It'll go. Just take it easy. Maybe it's tighter than you thought. Tighter than you expected, but just ease it on in. I might have to require 2 hands for leverage. Sounds like a Musty One video, doesn't it? He says, there's a joke there somewhere. Hell, there's always a joke there somewhere. Ooh, easy now. Oh, yeah. Almost home. Oh, yeah. Now you're going. Yeah. Aha. So one more big push and it's going to be all the way in. I'm not really a dirty joke person, but I can join in on the fun sometimes. If I don't get too raunchy. Like one of my ex-co-workers that used to show people pictures of a girl and an eel on his cell phone. He no longer works for our company, by the way. All right, there you go. This will dry up a little. You know, I have to say it, I'm really jealous of you folks that have these perfectly clean shops. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I've tried, I can't do it. I'm unable. Okay, I think I'm going to call it a day on this one. Can you believe what you just saw? I did all this holding a camera. I put this thing on. And do not tear it. Look at that. Just look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Type it in. That's just talent right there. It's not talent, that's luck. L-O-C-K, luck. Yeah. Okay. You can go in. I gotta visit the little boy's room and eat some supper and get cleaned up. So we'll get back on this tomorrow. I was going to go to the junkyard tomorrow and round up the last couple of parts I wanted because it's going to be nice tomorrow, but I think I'm just going to bail on that because I got to go back out Sunday. And I just want to stay here this weekend. I don't feel like going anywhere. I've driven. My car had, at the beginning of last week, my car had 144,000 some odd miles on it. And when I pulled in the driveway this evening, at the end of this week, the next week, it's just about to turn over 147,000. That's where all those miles come from. Hi guys, back in here tomorrow hopefully. Okay, a little blower mower trivia for you. First thing you'll notice, which I'll file away for next time, I'll sure know better, but when you look on the restoration forums and things like that, people giving advice, they say, oh, it's everything under there is semi-gloss black. Well, it's not, because I painted this part of this motor semi-gloss and I taped off this part up here because it's inside the blower motor housing and you'll never see it. You didn't need to paint it, and you can see that's distinctly gloss black on that motor. So when I do another one, I will not paint it the wrong kind of paint, hopefully. And here's your part number, 2837694, and there's an arrow pointing the direction of rotation. That number there at the top, I don't know what that is. And then there's the date code, 316 of 8. It's another one of those that was about 2 weeks before the car was built, actually built. But anyway, that's that. And also, you know, I've never seen one of these motors, these blower motors, go out. This one works fine, as I saw you saw in another video. Portion of it in the last video, I think, but it works fine, and everyone I've ever seen it works fine. And one thing too, if it did go out, you could take it apart and repair it because it's got studs and nuts on it there that let you disassemble and reassemble it. So it's how things have changed nowadays. You just pull it out and put another one in it. I keep seeing people on YouTube videos that they have those reviving these old vehicles, and they keep saying the same thing. They say, well, I'm gonna have to get another starter. This starter's not working right. I'm gonna have to go get another one. Let me remind everybody again, that's a lost art. People used to repair starters, and starters are repairable. You can repair a starter. You can repair an alternator. You can do that. If you wish to do that, you can do that. Just about everything on these old cars you can take apart, even this thing. You can take apart and repair it. Wiper motors, starter motors, blower motors, alternators, generators. I get disappointed when people, they're just trying to rush through stuff and get a video out, and they're going to turn in. Pretty soon at some point there's going to be no unoriginal, unrebuilt, unscrewed up starters anywhere out here, unless I start hoarding them. Maybe I will. Okay, so this is all together. It's not very hard to do. You start out with the round plate here that's recessed, and then so you just turn it up on the bench, and then you're going to put the flat rubber seal, the blower seal, and then you're going to put the ring. It's like that. You can put that on, and then you take these three isolators, and you just run them through there. The motor is not on there at that point, by the way. And you put the nuts on the back of those, as shown, these little small sheet metal nuts. And then you go ahead and put the motor on, line it up, put it on, carefully push it through the seal up there, and put the standard nuts on the outside of it and torque those down moderately. And then it's ready to go in the air conditioning box. You have 3 small holes for screws and corresponding holes there, and so it just slips in there. If it goes out, it goes over the outside, I guess. Yeah, it does. So it's going to go over the outside of it. So work that thing on there, and they're all spaced equally. But the thing to remember is, don't forget this, is that you have the ventilation hose here. So this is the hole in the motor that it goes in, and then there's the other end of it. So when this thing goes in there, it has to be adjacent to that. So you have to make sure you have it lined up correctly. That's all you do. You got 3 should be little screws here. It's in this bag somewhere. I've got all my old stuff in there. There they are. I'm going to try to wire brush those a little bit maybe, but kind of grungy. Back here. Golly. Just get out of my life, will you? Everything fights you. Yeah, there's the 3. Oh, yeah, that's for that. Sorry. There's the 3 for that thing, and then this goes on when you put it through the firewall, you put that back in there. So that's how it goes, guys. Show you what it's in. Don't forget to put the wheel back on. I nearly did. This is it. It's a metal wheel. It's a Torrington number 508 air rotor, and it just slips on there, and it's got a little Allen set screw. See it? Hey, that looks just like that scene off of Silence of the Lambs when he's in the jail cell there in the middle of the courtroom. How are you doing, Clarice? All right, let's put that on. Well, you can't see it. You see right there in the center of the screen that faint speck. Well, that's my neighbors across the way over there, and they're at least a quarter mile from here. And they've got some kind of music turned up so loud that I can hear it all the way over here. So I don't know. I don't know if they're having a Caucasian powwow over there or what they're doing. But it's loud. That's the way you can make terrible music better, I guess, is turn it up loud. And drink booze, and then it's better. Not for me, not anymore. Okay, so I'm having a Mopar powwow, and what's going on with this powwow is I have completed this AC box, unless I forgot something. But the motor is in, and it's no big deal. Just Here. Boom, 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 boom. Now I'm just waiting for some yelling. Anyway, so that's it. And this this motor here, fan motor, the fan for the motor. I'll get it right. Anyway, it can kind of take different positions on this shaft here, outward or inward. So I just sort of matched it up as close as I could with the kind of the weathered area there, the rusty, kind of semi-rusty. And it seems to be fine. It's not scraping on anything. So just be sure before you put this all back in the car that it's not scraping on anything, because if you get it in there and it's going, then it won't be the end of the world, because you can pull it out from the firewall side. But just something you don't want to have to get into. Okay, that's it. I'm going to put this to the side over here. And I guess next we'll get started on that one. I got to go out of town again tomorrow. But that's what I have to do. So I won't get much done tomorrow. But anyway, no big deal. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. And so I'm probably going to put this up as 2 different videos, because it's going to be kind of long and people's attention sort of starts to drift. And, you just don't pay attention. So in this video, we'll get the AC side here. We'll get this one completed. It's all done. And then the next go around, we'll do the heater side. And I also have to find out what kind of tape I want to use on this to seal that up. So I got to ask on the forums, because it's some kind of mystery tape here. I don't know what that is made out of, that tape, but I'm going to snip off. I love posting questions on forums that cannot easily be answered, because lots of times people just won't answer them because they can't. But it's some sort of paper tape. It's not duct tape. But I'm going to take a picture of that, and it's losing it. And I'm going to post it up and see what I get, because I got to try to find some, because I'm all about originality. Thanks again. So if you have any questions, please ask, and see you on the heater side of things, looks like. Bye for now.